even though I don't necessarily refer to myself as a minimalist these days, during my more strict minimalist days, I did pick up quite a few rules, tips, and tricks, which I still find extremely useful and use in my day-to-day life now. So I'm going to go over 5 of the best ones that anyone can use, minimalist or not, to be more intentional with your stuff, prioritize the important things, and hopefully save time and money. I didn't come up with any of these. This is all advice that I've heard from other people like the minimalists and other creators. And like any advice you hear on the internet, take the stuff that's relevant to you, leave the stuff that's not, and/or adapt it to your own personal situation. If you're new here, I'm Alex. I make content about minimalism adjacent things, travel, things that I've used over the years to make my brain a bit less crap. Honestly, I'm still figuring it out, but that's all part of the thing. Stop trying to be perfect, start making stuff, and then see how it goes. So if you want to come along for the ride, feel free to subscribe, and let's get into the video. Number 1, if it's not a yes, it's a no. I try to only buy things when I'm getting this gut reaction of yes. Now, of course, this doesn't work for everything. It's not like I'm in the supermarket buying toothpaste and my gut's like, yeah, toothpaste. But consumable essentials aside, if I'm buying something like a video game, a book, an item of clothing, something that I'm going to have for years, if I look at it and my gut's not like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna buy it. Because if you're buying something new and you're kind of like, about it, and even if you're like, yeah, it's pretty good, but I don't love it, what's the point? When I was first getting into indoor plants, I really wanted to get some pots that I just loved. And I didn't even know exactly what I was looking for. But every time that I went looking for a pot, I just kept thinking, that's not it. That's not it. That's kind of nice, but it's still not quite right. And right when I got to the point that I started to think, Alex, it's pots. Are you being a bit too particular about this? I was on a coffee walk with a friend and we walked past a shop she liked. We had a look inside and I saw Angus and Celeste pots. And in particular, I saw this pot. And I thought, that's it. That is the pot. This is the kind of thing that I have been looking for. I didn't know what I was looking for, but this is it. It's a block color, but it's a nice color. It's got a bit of an interesting pattern to it, but it's not too loud. And I just feel like it looks good in my house. This style is called Abstract Relief, and they also have this other pattern in it as well. They have a few different colors. I tried to stick to charcoal and green because I really like those colors. So I bought, I think, 2 and then waited for them to have their second sale where they have things that are slightly imperfect for heavily reduced prices. And I bought a bunch more. And now I think I have about 10 pot plants in Angus and Celeste pots. But I'm so glad that I held out and waited for something that I really, really liked because I absolutely love these pots. And I still look at them sometimes and I'm like, damn, what a nice pot. You know, true story, believe it or not. And of course, this rule doesn't only apply to buying physical possessions. We're just kind of doing that because we're talking about minimalism. You can apply it to everyday life as well. If you're sort of like, do I really want to go to this party? I kind of feel about it. Then don't go. Yes, there are some things in life that you're not going to feel 100% yes about all the time. There are just some things that you have to do. But I do find it's a great question to ask myself if I'm feeling a bit unsure about something, and you can probably take it to whatever level you want to. You might be in a relationship and you think, do I think yes about this relationship? Not really. You might have been in a job that you've just felt meh about for a long time and you think, do I want to feel meh about my career going forward? Maybe not. Maybe you need to start looking at alternatives. It's not necessarily about immediately dropping whatever you're doing as soon as it's not an yes, but it is a good reminder and something to put things in perspective. Number 2, the 2020/just in case rule. This one helped me get rid of so much stuff, especially in the early days when I was first getting into minimalism. Back then, my main guiding light for minimalism was The Minimalist, and they have a bunch of rules, but this was one of the most useful ones for me. The idea with the 2020 rule is, can you replace it in under 20 minutes for under $20? This one is great for getting rid of just in case items. So essentially a lot of junk. Now, just in case is not the same thing as just for when. You might have a drawer full of toothpaste. Let's use toothpaste again. And you think, I got so much toothpaste, maybe I should just get rid of some of it. But it's like, well, toothpaste is something that is probably not going to go off anytime soon. and it is something that you will eventually use. So it probably is a waste to get rid of something like toothpaste. But if you have like 7 pairs of scissors, what are the chances that you actually need 7 pairs of scissors? You might decide to cut down to 2 pairs of scissors, one that you use every day and then a backup pair in case you lose the first one or they break. The great thing about this one is that you can give yourself permission to get rid of so many just in case items that you would otherwise hold on to because you think, but what if I need them? The chances are you will not need the majority of your just in case items. It allows you to get rid of a whole bunch of items because you can say to yourself, if I do need to replace any of these hundreds, thousands of items potentially, I can do it in under 20 minutes for under $20. That would allow you to get rid of all these other items that would have just sat in a drawer never being used. Think about all those excess electronic cords, all of those power adapters, USBs that you don't use anymore, cleaning products you haven't touched in years, kitchen utensils that you always forget you have because you never use them. You can get rid of it all. Number 3, the spontaneous combustion rule. This is another one from The Minimalists, and it's a great one to use when you're decluttering. Essentially, imagine that one day all your stuff just spontaneously combusted. So when you're going through your stuff, ask yourself, if I lost everything, would I actually go through the effort of replacing this thing? And potentially, if this spontaneously combusted, would I actually be a little bit relieved? You might have stuff in your house that, for example, was a gift from somebody that you've never really loved, but you've been holding on to out of obligation. Would you feel relieved that this item wasn't there anymore? Maybe you should think about getting rid of it. You might have a bunch of books, but there's a lot of them that you will never read again. So if they all spontaneously combusted, you probably wouldn't rebuy a bunch of them. I find this one extremely helpful when doing a declutter. And to be fair, I could probably be a bit more strict about it. I probably got about 20 t-shirts, right? And I do wear all of those t-shirts. I don't think there's a single t-shirt in there that I haven't worn in the last 3 to 6 months. But if my entire bedroom, including my wardrobe, spontaneously combusted one day, would I actually go out and buy 20 t-shirts? There's a good chance that I actually wouldn't. I'd probably just buy like 10. That seemed pretty reasonable. So it's actually making me kind of think about going through my wardrobe and doing another declutter. But in this case, I already own these t-shirts. I like all of them. Eventually, some of them are going to start to wear out. So I don't think I should get rid of t-shirts that I actually like just because I wouldn't necessarily buy a bunch of new ones. So there is a line there. Assess it for yourself, but I do think it's a very useful rule. And also on the topic of decluttering, number 4, do you want to take this through to the next stage of your life? I think I first heard this from the Marie Kondo Netflix series. And for some reason, asking this particular question, probably because of my existential brain, it was like, we've only got limited time, we're moving on to the next thing. Do I want to hold on to the past, or do I want to move on to the next stage of my life? For some reason, it tickled my brain in the right way. So I really like this question. You might have been quite attached to something in the past and you've held on to it this long. But then when you ask yourself, where do I want to be in the future? Where do I see myself going? Do I want to keep being this person with this stuff? Or do I want to move on to the next stage of my life? There might be some things that you've been looking at and you've been unsure about for a long time. And you think, do I want this to be something that I'm still asking myself going forward into the future? Probably not. I think I just want to make a decision now and be done with it. And again, my existential brain goes to, all right, remember that you're gonna die. Is this thing actually important? In the context of my mortality, do I actually care about this item? On my deathbed, am I gonna be like, thank God I had that thing? Probably not. Again, this might be extreme for some people. This is just how my brain works. And number 5, my final thing, buy it nice or buy it twice. Now, this one in particular isn't necessarily black and white. Of course, there are going to be people in different situations who can afford different things. It's not necessarily about buying the most expensive thing. It's about buying the item that is the best fit for the purpose you need it for and will last within your budget. In some situations, this might mean putting off buying something until you can afford to buy the thing that is the best fit for purpose. But also, when you are more intentional with your purchases, when you are buying less cheap things simply because they are cheap or a good deal, you end up saving more money in the long term. $10 here, $15 there, 75% of this thing there. If you didn't really need any of those items, that money quickly adds up. And it means that when you do want to buy something and you're very intentional about buying something, you might have more money to spend on that thing. You might also want to think about cost per use. You might buy something that is relatively cheap, but get far less uses out of it than if you bought something that was a bit more expensive, but higher quality. This is something I think about with technology. For example, when I was buying my new computer, I thought about what do I need it for now, and what will I need it for in the future? I could have gone with a cheaper computer, but I thought about the fact that I'm going to be using this possibly more than any other device in my life. I'm going to use it essentially every day. I'm hoping that I'm going to be doing a lot of video editing on it. So I'm going to spend a bit more money on it now to make sure that it will see me through all these tasks comfortably and for a good period of time into the future. And I've been using this computer for about 4 years now, almost every single day for multiple hours, and I've had almost zero issues with it. So although I spent quite a bit of money on my computer, my cost per use is relatively low. And I've got an item that will work properly and do the things that I want it to do without giving me any grief. So I think that it was worth that investment. In a lot of situations, you can buy a cheaper version of something or a slightly different version of something in order to save money. But if there is something that you really want and you've been wanting it for a long time, and if you go with a cheaper option, every time you use it, you're gonna be a little bit disappointed that it's not the other thing, then maybe you should just buy that thing. Recently, my everyday shoes really started to wear out, and I was looking for a new pair of Vejas. Now, these things can be quite expensive, and a lot of places were stocking them for around about $200, but there were a few different color options which were significantly cheaper. For example, it was yellow here, or black, or the sole was yellow. And I thought about buying a color variant because it was like, well, I can get it for significantly less if I go with a different color, and it's just a color, like they function the same. But ultimately I realized I'm gonna use these almost every day, and if I go with a color that I'm just not that into, if they're not a yes, then I'm going to be a little bit disappointed every time that I wear them. Whereas if I go with this color, I know that I like it, I know that it goes with a lot of my clothes, so I'm going to be happier overall long term going with these. But as it turns out, I ended up finding my exact size secondhand, very lightly used. These are pre-owned, $60, including postage. Winner, winner. But the main point is, don't buy something that you're ultimately not going to be happy with and maybe even potentially avoid using just because it's going to save you some money, because you're not really saving money if you're buying something that you don't really like. All right, those are 5 of the best minimalist tips, tricks, rules that I still use in everyday life and I get a lot of value out of. Hopefully you can get value out of them as well. If you've got any that you use in your day-to-day life, which I didn't go over in this video, leave them down in the comments. Give this a like, give this a subscribe, watch another video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.